So the next topic will be statements. So the statements are going to be basically classified into three types. The first one is conditional statements or decision making statements. Second one, iterational statements or looping statements. Third one, case statements. So like this we have three types of statements are available. So under conditional statements we have the functional implementations of if else and nested if. So nested if in the sense if inside if can be called as nested if. So coming to this iterational statements, we have for, while and do while are there. So these can be called as looping or iterational statements. So coming to the case statements, so under case statements we have only switch and case, these two are available. Okay, so now we can discuss one by one in detail. Okay, first one, conditional statements or decision making statements. So in that the first one is if. So let's see how if will be useful for us. If will be used to run some logic based on depending on some condition. So here I am going to create a class, new class, if demo. So suppose here if you have any boolean value, so boolean value in the sense maybe we have a variable which contains true or false. So boolean is logged in equals to true. So is logged in is a variable that contains the value true or false. So here whenever user is logged in, if I want to print something on the screen, so then I can write like this, if he is logged in, so then I can print something on the screen like this. So here I can write welcome user. Okay, so this is only if condition. So whenever in a scenario that if it is false, there is no implementation is available. Okay, so whenever we have true value, so this is going to execute something. That means when the condition is true, so we have implementation, but when condition is false, we don't have any implementation. So that is what if condition. So whenever you see this if and else condition, so when the condition was not true, so at that time there will be a block like this, that is what we can call it is else block. So else is going to be executed when this condition is true. This else is completely depend upon the condition whatever we are writing inside if. Okay, so here we are going to print sysout welcome guest. So that means if that value is true, that means is logged in is true, so then we are going to print welcome user. So when this condition is false, so then we are going to print welcome guest. So now if you execute, so as the condition is true, you can expect this welcome user. Suppose if this condition was become false, and if you save this, so then we can see that welcome guest is going to be printed. Okay, so this is if else condition. Suppose in case if you want to implement nested if block, nested if block, so let's see how it is going to be. Suppose string location equals to India. Okay, so inside if you are writing another if condition, that means if location equals to India, so then we are printing something like you are not eligible for this plan. So if we are going to check some banking plans or something, so at that time if the customer is logged in and if he is not from India, then they are eligible. So that means we have if inside if can be called as nested if. Okay, so now you can see you will get two statements. So here it is false, let me make it true here. So then you can see you will get welcome user, you are not eligible. Suppose if he is from UAE, then it is not going to print anything. Why? Because there is no else block. So here we are going to write an else. Congratulations, you are eligible. So like that we can write some functional logic. So this is can be referred as nested if whenever we have, so if inside if, that can be called as nested if. Are we clear? Anybody have any questions here?
Clear, sir.
Clear, sir.
Okay. Next, so whenever it comes to looping statements, so we have for loop, while loop and do while, right? So if you understand for loop, almost you can able to understand the while and do while also. So there will be a slight change when you compare with for loop. So let's see with for loop now. So how for loop can be useful. So I am going to create a new class. So normally for loop is going to contain three statements. For the first one can be called as initialization, second one is called condition, third one is iterator, or in generalized language you can call it as increment and decrement. So suppose in case if I want to print hello world for 10 times, so what is the approach that as of now we have? So we are going to write system.out.println hello world. So the same statement can be copy pasted for 10 times, but that is not a good way of programming. So you need to write some logic which should be iterated in the sense multiple times it can be executable. So at that time, so we are going to use this for loop. So we are going to write for int I is equal to 1. So this is going to be called as, I can be considered here as step count. I can be considered as step count. So step count is nothing but how many times that loop has to be iterated. How many times the loop has to be iterated or repeated. So that is going to be called as this I. So now this condition will decide how many times that loop has to be iterated. So here I am going to write I less than or equals to 10. That means till the time I value becomes 10. So as of now it started from 1, right? So whenever I reaches to 10, till then the loop will be executed. So whenever we have less than, here you will get I plus plus. That means increment I value. So this third iterator or increment decrement will be helpful for, so to make condition false after some steps. So this iterator or increment decrement will be helpful for us. So after some point of time, so this particular condition should get true, condition should get false, and we need to get out of the loop. So that is the advantage of this iterator. Okay, so then you are going to write whatever the logic that you want to implement, or whatever the statements that has to be executed for n number of times. So this will be useful for us. So let's write the same logic here. Suppose if I want to print hello world for 10 times, so then what I will do? So I am going to write int I is equal to 1, I less than or is equal to 10, I plus plus. So now if you are going to execute, so you can see the output. So this hello world was printed for 10 times, correct? So this is the advantage of using iterational statements, like not only for, even if you take while and do while also, that will do the same job. So now instead of making the value hard coded, that means every time if you execute the same program, it will give you the same output. Hello world will be fixedly, it is going to print for 10 times. Instead of that, in case, so based on the user choice, how many times it want to iterate, so that if you want to generate from the end user, so you are going to simply use the scanner class. So yesterday we have seen how the scanner class is going to work. So scanner some object is equal to new scanner of system dot in. But immediately scanner is going to give you an error. Why? Because from the default packages it cannot import a scanner class, or else it is unable to find what is scanner class. So at that time, so you have to import the package, what package has to be imported, and whenever you don't know what package it is going to import, if you take mouse, so system will suggest what has to be fixed for this particular error. So it is saying that import scanner from java.util. If you click this, automatically the scanner class will be imported and this error will be cleared off. Okay, so now the scanner class is ready. Now we are asking user to input how many times this has to be printed. So enter n value. So then after seeing this, user will enter what is n value, right? So then we can say that int n equal to, so from the scanner class, so you can use the function next int, which is going to give you what is the value entered by the user, that will be received in a string format. From string format it will be converting it into the proper number. So then the value will be available inside the variable n here. So instead of 10, so I am going to replace this value with n, so that whenever we execute, so it will ask what is n value. Suppose if I give 3, only 3 times it will repeat. So now this program will be reusable for several options. Okay, are we clear? Any question? Okay, let's continue. So here, so the for loop is going to be useful. So iterate for n number of times, and when sometimes you may also have requirement to print what is that step count. So what I am going to do, so if you observe I value, it is started from 1 till whatever the value that user has entered, that means 10 or 20 or something else. So in case if you want to print that step count also, so we can do like this. I am going to concatenate with I and adding a colon before the hello world, so that you can see the step count or serial number or whatever we can assume here. So now if you execute again, suppose if I am going to pass 10, so it will print the step count 1 to 10 here. So sometimes you may have the requirement to print only the step count. Suppose here if I am going to print this I value, so this program is going to print 1 to 10. This program is going to print 1 to 10. So or else if I am going to enter n value as 5, 1 to n values are going to be printed. So this is the advantage of for loop. So by using for loop we can implement so several things, but only point to be noted here is, so you need to aware about how many times the loop has to be iterated. So whenever you don't know how many times it has to be iterated, so in that scenario, so we are going to use while loop. So for and while will have the same three statements: initialization, condition, some iterator. So now let's see this. Suppose if I want to implement while loop for the same program, okay, so then first you are going to have the initial value of the iterator. So then you are going to write while followed by whatever the condition that has to follow. So inside this while loop, so at the end or in between, you are going to write either it is increment or decrement. So then for loop, whatever it is implemented, the same thing you can also expect from while loop. Suppose if I want to write the same program even with while loop, so let's see how it is possible. So here I am going to write while loop. So don't take while, since while is a predefined keyword. Take it as while loop or while demo or something whenever you are naming the class, okay. So here also first we are going to create the scanner, and then we are asking user to input value for how many times it has to be iterated, okay. So here also we are using scanner and we are writing how many times it has to iterate. Next we are going to initialize the value, so I equal to 1. So we are going to initialize the value, so whatever we use inside the iteration. The same logic, while I less than or is equal to n, till the time I value lesser than the entered value, so this loop is going to be iterated. So here in case if I want to print that I value, so we can print, so that the same program we can expect similar to for loop. So however for loop is printing 1 to n, so this is also going to print 1 to n. So after that, so we need this increment or decrement, so to make the condition false after some iterations. So now we are going to execute, so it will ask what is n value. So suppose n value is 10, so that it is going to print the same 1 to 10, okay. So this is how you can implement while loop. Maybe now, as I said, so you are going to get a question that, so what is the requirement of having while loop? So though for loop is doing the same job, right? So now we are going to get an understanding that, so what is the requirement of while loop. So now I am going to write a program, so observe carefully. So first I am going to ask user to enter two values. Suppose maybe if I am going to take A, so suppose I have passed value 10 here, and in B, so if I am going to enter B value as some 20, so I will give a menu to the end user. That means press 1 for addition, press 2 for subtraction, press 3 for multiplication, 0 for exit. So my requirement is this should be a continuous loop. This should be a continuous loop, and I want to exit only from the loop when user is giving 0. When user is giving 0, only at that scenario I want to get out of the loop. Otherwise, till then this loop has to be continuously iterated. So this we cannot implement by using the for loop. Why? What is the problem? So for loop should be used whenever you have a clarity that, so how many times that program has to iterate this particular for loop. Suppose here we are taking 10, that means you have a clarity that this for loop has to iterate for 10 times. Otherwise maybe this 10 can be replaced with n. So the 10 value is also a number. So there also you have fixed step count, that means how many times that loop has to be iterated, so that we have a clarity. Okay, so that can be, that for loop can be used only in that scenarios. So while can be used in a scenario that whenever you don't know how many times it has to iterate, so at that time, so this particular while loop can be used. Okay, so you need to decide, so whether for loop or while loop will be useful, so in what scenario and at what functional logic it is going to be used. Okay, so now let's implement the program. So for the same logic that what we are expecting, so I am going to create a class now. So maybe while loop 1, yeah. So here we are going to take a scanner as it is. So as I said, so you have to import util package to understand what is scanner. So first we are going to ask user enter first value, whatever the value entered by the user int a. So by using scanner we can store it in the variable a. So then immediately we'll ask the second value, enter second value b equal to scanner dot next int. Now we have a and b values. As I said, now I need to make an infinite looping. So how we can make our infinite or unstable looping? So here I am going to take a boolean value. So bool some x variable is equal to true. So what I am going to do here, while x, that means till the time x equal to true. So here we should write x equal to true. So in short form I am writing x, that means while x is true, that loop is going to be iterated. Whenever the x condition become false, then you will come out of the loop. So till the time x value is true, the loop is going to be iterated continuously. Okay, so here what I am going to do, so I am going to ask user to enter some choice. So press 1 for addition, /n for new line, so 2 for subtraction, 3 for multiplication, 0 for exit, /n, enter your choice. So that means, so we are asking user to enter 1 for addition, 2 for subtraction, 3 for multiplication, and 0 to come out of the loop. So this value whatever entered by the user, I am going to store inside a variable called n. So here also we are going to use the same next int. Why? Because we are expecting a number that can be a 1 or 2 or 3 or 0 or something else. So here I am going to write a logic like this: if n value equals to 1, that means when user choice is 1, so you need to implement addition operation. So here you can write a plus b. Here you will write a plus b. So else if, so user choice is, if the user choice is 2 here, and we have to write a minus b or subtract by b. So if not, else if n value equals to 3, so then we are going to print a multiplied by b. Suppose else if n value is equal to 0, that means he should come out of the loop. He is selecting exit option. So this while loop should become false here. So you can simply write x equal to false. So here we have mentioned that loop logic is So while x value is true, so this loop has to be iterated continuously, correct? So we are making it false so that you will get out of the loop. Next, if user is trying to enter something else other than this one, so now we have to mention wrong input. Okay, so let's execute and check this program. So you can see this stop symbol indicates the program is still executing. You can observe that one also. First value 10, second value 25. Now we entered in the loop. So you can observe this, the program still executing. So my choice is 1. Again I can enter 1, 2, 1, 1, 3, 3. We don't know at what iteration, after how many steps user will select 0, right? So now I am selecting 0. Now you can see you came out of the loop and program was terminated. Is it clear? So here in this scenario I have given 0 for after 6 steps. Maybe some other people they can give at second step only, some other people can give at first step only. Okay, so whenever you don't know how many steps, it has to be iterated. So at that time it is preferred to have while loop. So for loop cannot do implementations like this, so that is the reason we are using while loop. In real time scenarios, so you can use this while loop. Suppose if there is a project, so where that project is going to have CRUD operations, create, retrieve, update, delete. So in that, so if you want to make a infinite looping, suppose we have created a program for all these options, insert, delete, update and display the data. So if user want to insert a record, every time he need to execute and enter the record, then the program will close, correct? So again they have to rerun the program. So to avoid that kind of thing, so we'll use while loop. Okay, so I hope everybody clear. Any queries or doubts?
No, sir.
Okay,
Yeah, good, sir.
next one, do while. So if you understand while, do while will be very, picture is clear. The first thing is, here if you observe one thing, so while is going to execute something like when condition is true, then only it is going to start executing its block. But do while is something, so where it is going to be executing, first it will execute the statements and then it is going to check the condition. So what I can conclude, so do while can be used in a scenario whenever, so user want to skip the condition checking for the first time. I repeat again, whenever user want to skip the condition check for the first time, so then we can use do while. Okay, so let me implement the same program with do while here. So again we have initialized the scanner and we are asking first value and last value. So we are asking user, we have taken a boolean value here. So first you are going to take the do block. So whenever there is a do block, it is going to give you an error. What is this error means? Whenever there is do, so immediately there should be a while condition also. So we are going to write while x, that means till the time x is true, this loop has to be iterated. So now first system will start executing from this line number 6. It will continuously, it will execute. So it will complete the do block. After that it will check whether the condition is true or not. So that is how while and do while are having the differences. So now if I am going to write the same set of statements, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and after that, so exit loop here, the same program. So here x value is true. So if you execute, you can expect the same output. So 10, 20, addition, 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 subtraction, multiplication, multiplication, 0 to exit. Same output, right? No difference at all. But observe this one. So here x value I am going to make it as false. X value I am going to make it here it as false. That means, so it should not execute any of the statements. So by default I am giving that x is false, so that you should not get enter into the loop, but still it will execute once. Why? Because so first it is going to execute, then it will realize that user selected the option and the condition was false, so you should not execute the second time. Now you can see x value I am giving it here it as false. So now again 10, 20, so I am giving addition. So addition was printed, later it realized that this x value is false or the condition is false, so that it was come out of the loop. So that's what the difference between while and do while. So while is going to execute, so first it will check the condition. If the condition is true, then only it is going to start executing. So do while is something, so first it will execute, then it will check the condition. It's a what we can call difference of priority. So first it is checking the condition and executing, while do while is first it is executing, after that it is going to check the condition, pre and post check. Okay, so this is how while loop will be, while and do while will work. Okay, are we clear? Any questions?